'Tis the season of gifting and halls to deck, and the Who's and Who Newville were in love with new tech. Where can we find Sonos and Samsung and Nintendo, they shouted. Would they find it in one place? This they questioned and doubted. When suddenly a Who yelled, Walmart's the place to start! And each Who added headphones, TVs, and games to their carts. With Walmart, their shopping was done in a flurry. They cried out, Who knew? And ordered their gifts in a hurry. Shop the latest tech gifts in the Walmart app.
While the Who's of Whoville laughed and made cheery, the Grinch hatched a plot to make their season more dreary. Dill pickle seasoning on fries, knitted Argyle stockings. That'll sure make for a shocking unboxing. The new Grinch meal, now at McDonald's. At participating McDonald's while supplies last. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Friends, and welcome to another episode of Fully Booked. I'm Megan.
And I'm Shireen.
And it's the first week of December.
There
it is. It's the holiday season. Well, I mean, I spent the holiday season here for like 3 weeks in Canada because the snow started mighty early.
It feels like it's January.
It does. It does a little bit.
Yeah.
It does. I feel like I'm going to hit a really bad slump right after the holidays this year, which normally doesn't happen to me until the middle of February.
Yeah, I know. My slump usually doesn't happen until like March. But I'm concerned that this year it's gonna
it's gonna be kicked into gear.
It's gonna be like January 31st, and I'm gonna be like raw or 30th. Sorry,
yes.
I should say.
Yeah,
but like
no, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm gonna be like by like January 15th, I'm gonna be like, oh, I hate this. And
we're gonna be booking a trip to Mexico.
Yeah, we're gonna be like hitting that seasonal depression real hard this year, which normally doesn't happen until at least a month.
Exactly.
Later. But it's not going away. The snow keeps starting again.
It's terrible. It's snowing right now.
It is. Anyway.
Ho, ho, ho.
Yeah. Happy holidays. Whatever. We're still recording this in November, technically.
We are. That's true.
Anyway.
It could be tropical by December.
Yeah. This month is a little bit all over the place for us, probably. But it's almost like we've created our own wrap-up month for the entire year. And every week is going to be a different version of wrapping things up for the year of 2025. Which is okay. That's fine. That's fun.
That's okay. I mean, I think a lot of people want to kind of just do a ceremonial burning of 2025 at this point.
I sure do. Yeah, and I'm sure many people feel the same.
Oh, yeah.
State of the world tells me that many people feel the same. So,
ain't that the truth?
Heading into the end of the year, I think that's mostly what we're going to be doing, is just having some discussions and talking a little bit about some stuff to wrap up the year, what we're looking forward to, things that we didn't have a chance to get to maybe a little bit
that's
this
a good
year
point.
as well,
that
we're going to talk about a little later in the month too. And so to kick things off, what we thought we'd start talking about is the sort of, I guess, a little bit of an overarching discussion about what our year in reading has kind of looked like to a degree, in the sense of like, this has been an interesting year, I think, for both of us for many different reasons.
Yeah.
Both of us have maybe veered off of kind of the path that we were on in terms of our reading habits last year to a degree, and headed in a different direction. And we've also both been, or had the opportunity, I should say, to explore new things. New
through
genres.
ARCs.
Yeah, that's it. Through ARCs, and also through doing maybe a little bit more research on our own. Through ARCs, we've discovered new authors. Through our own research, we've come across a few authors whose works we've never touched on before. And it's kind of opened up certain things, I think, for both of us, where we've, realized or remembered what we really like about reading in some capacities as well, because we all really have this tendency to get stuck on the bandwagon of what's super popular, what are the bestsellers. You walk into the bookstore and all the bestsellers are front and center, and you're like, well, everyone's talking about it, I guess I should read it, because we all, to a degree, most of us get influenced that way. Maybe you don't, and if you don't, cool, that's fine. But unfortunately, just due to how much things, the very popular things, are kind of shoved in your face a little bit. This does have a tendency to happen. And we did talk about this in the month of November as well, when we were talking about sort of with Brimstone dropping, with the idea on the romantasy bandwagon, and how insanely popular all of these novels are that are being published, particularly by the much bigger and well-known authors. We did touch on that a little bit last week, if I'm not mistaken. So, you know, in kind of conjunction with that, we kind of thought we'd do that. It gives us an opportunity to kind of work through a little bit of what our years look like. But then also, you know, kind of shout out like some honorable mentions, some things that we've discovered, some books that we really like, some authors who we really have discovered.
Yep.
And whose, you know, I think works that we're going to be looking forward to in the future as well.
Agree.
Yeah.
But before we get started, Megan, what's on your nightstand?
Right. So, in that same spirit, speaking of an ARC, I was fortunate enough to receive a copy of a novel called The Bookshop Below by Georgia Summers, who is a fantasy author who I believe has one other novel, if I'm not mistaken, one or two other novels for the time being. A Breath of Time, which is being published, City of Stardust, which was published in 2024. The Bookshop Below, at the time that you're reading this, was just published, I believe, on the 20th of November. There is a review up on the site at fullybooked.ca if you want to go check that out. It's only minorly spoilery. I try to keep it pretty close to the chest when I can, when I'm just like putting out an ARC review as often as possible. This was a really cool read. I really enjoyed this. It was so interesting.
It sounds cute.
Yeah, big thank you to Hatchet Book Group Canada, by the way, for sending over a copy of that for review. Thank you guys. You guys are great. So this novel basically combines like the world of like books and bookshops with the world of magic in this really interesting way. Georgia Summers has this interesting way where the people who own the bookshops, it takes place in London, but in like, it's like urban fantasy in a world that doesn't really exist. It follows people who are like bookshop owners, but they own essentially magical bookshops. And when they are given these abilities, what many of them can do is what's called a reading, where it's almost like they can pull the magic or energy off the page and use it in a magical capacity.
This is amazing.
Yeah,
Send it my way.
It was a really interesting read. It was a fun. It had like a little slow burn romantasy in it, but it wasn't like too in your face, but it was like nice the way that they did it. It had a good level of mystery. I liked the main character, the protagonist. I thought she was very multifaceted. She'd done a lot of like negative things in her past and like properly had to try to work through some of them. Like, it wasn't perfect the whole way through. Yeah, there could have been maybe more exploration of certain aspects of things. Yeah. But honestly, this was such a cool and unique form of magic being used in a story that I thought was fascinating and isn't something that I've come across that often. So I really liked it.
Well, the way you're describing it, it almost sounds like it's not, I don't want to say similar or anything, but it's just kind of reminding me a little bit of like Inkheart. About how he like reads off the pages and then the characters come out of the book, which I know isn't the same thing.
It's not exactly the same, but I definitely understand what you're saying. And there are like similar qualities to it for sure.
Send it my way.
Okay.
I want to read it. It sounds fun. As soon as you said the bookshop below and there's magic, I'm like, hello.
Yeah. And there's like an underground world to things and like a whole society of people. Anyway, it's interesting. There's a lot to it. So yeah.
Cool. I'm reading, I'm also reading an ARC. Actually, this was already published, this book, I believe. I don't know what date.
In August, if I'm not mistaken.
In August. But actually the author herself, Sasha Preston, reached out to us to send us a copy of the book and to write a review. So I'm about halfway through. It's called The Sweetest Getaway. And it's essentially, from what I'm gathering, I actually didn't read like a synopsis or anything. I just dove right into the book. It's essentially a heist. And it's about this woman, Jennifer, and her roommate, Nari. Nari is a bit of how to put this? She's kind of like Danny Ocean in Ocean's 11. So she kind of like has a big network of fellow heisters. I don't know how she's got like a big network of contacts and they're all kind of into stealing expensive things. So she's always looking for like new schemes, new things that she can get involved in, because her mother has also done this her whole life. So her mom is quite famous in this space. And so she's working to like impress her mom. And they have a chance now to basically make like millions and millions of dollars because in the novel, there's a sweetener shortage. So like sweetener that you put in like your coffee and stuff. Yeah. There's a big shortage of like the chemical that they use to make the sweetener.
Interesting.
And so Jennifer and Nari have the chance to steal. They're put in contact with this one individual who has his, buyers and whatnot. And so he puts them on the path of stealing this chemical to make sweeteners, and then they can sell it to a company, like call it Sweet and Low, for example.
Okay.
The kicker is that the company that they're stealing from is the one that Jennifer works for.
Oh, I get it.
In her 9-to-5 job.
Right.
Jennifer dreams of opening up a surf shop in Hawaii, and so this is her chance to make the money
to be able to do that. Yeah.
And she kind of rationalizes it because she finds out that like the company that she works for, they invest in cobalt mines. I can't remember where it was. In the Congo. And so a lot of women actually die. A lot of people end up sick from it. So she's rationalizing it, saying like she's seeing herself as like a bit of a
like a Robin Hood type.
Yeah,
almost, right?
I steal from the rich, but I give to the needy.
Yeah.
I keep 40
percentage, but I'm not greedy.
I'm not greedy. Yeah. Anyway, so we're just kind of getting into the thick of what's going on in the novel. It's not bad. It's not a bad read. It's pretty interesting. I think it would make a pretty good movie, to be honest. It kind of
sounds like it could be like a really fun caper
type
of film. Yeah.
Yeah, like there's been a couple of ARCs that I've read now that I'm like, oh, this would be better as a movie. And it's happened a couple of times with other books too.
Huh.
Anywho, let's get into it.
Okay, so I guess we should kick things off by chatting a little bit about what sort of our year in reading has kind of looked like overall.
Oh, yeah.
And how we're kind of feeling about it in general, like how maybe things have differed or been the same and, where we're at now.
Yeah. If anybody's been listening, they know that I typically love my fantasy novels, and not just my standalone fantasies. Like, the more that are in the series, the better.
Oh, yeah.
And the thicker those novels are, the better.
Yeah.
I had a baby this year, and I found that a 600-page novel is just a bit of a monumental feat. And Megan and I were talking about this earlier. It's not like I haven't read like 200-300-page novels, but
No.
But the difference is that when you dive into like a 600-page fantasy novel, there's world building.
200 pages of it are world building.
Oh yeah, there's like intricate characters.
Correct.
There's like lore. There's history. There's so much that you have to pay attention to. And of course, they always have these names that are kind of harder to like wrap your head around.
Yeah,
like
true.
It's not like Jennifer.
No.
And so there's a lot that goes into a fantasy novel, which I typically adore because it allows me to fully immerse my attention in the book.
Yeah.
Now that I'm a mother with a baby who's under a year old, everything's a little bit chaotic. And in order to be able to continue to enjoy reading, I've had to take a step back and actually just kind of pick up what would normally be like my hangover cure books, my book hangover books, and it's all thrillers. So I've really found that this year thrillers have really been my thing.
Your saving grace.
Like my saving grace.
Yeah.
I read a Frida McFadden for the first time, which was The Boyfriend. Mm-hmm. And then I read The Housemaid.
Yeah.
I really liked her books. They were very fast. There was a weird twist at the end in The Boyfriend.
Well, it was like it's what you needed at this time, right? So
well, this is it, And then from there, I was like, okay, like these are good. They're easy. I don't want to only stick to Frida McFadden though, because like then you kind of fall in like
don't do that.
Like a weird like rabbit hole or whatever. But then I read The Perfect Marriage, which you read too.
I was not a fan of that.
You were not a fan. No. I wasn't either. The last 10 pages, I was like, oh, okay.
I think that was partially what it was for me. The writing style wasn't for me, to be fair, because the conversations didn't feel very natural to me, so that bothered me a little bit. But it's just, I think for me that it was about that last like 20 pages or so where everything really fell to bits. Yeah. And I was like, and I finished it and I was like, oh, that was annoying.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That was definitely like, it wasn't as well brought together at the end.
Agreed.
But it was still fine. Like, it took me way too long to read that.
But again, it's one of those things where you're just like, yeah, but it's like
it's easy.
the whole way
it's
through,
easy.
you know?
Like, and this is what I'm finding, and Megan and I were saying this earlier, like, when you enter motherhood, you basically just need, like, beach reads or something, or, like, thrillers or
for
something.
at least a while, because you will be interrupted very frequently.
Constantly.
Yeah.
Or you're just exhausted and
True,
you don't
you
have,
like, the bandwidth necessarily
no,
to
like,
absorb all of
focus
it.
on this. Like, I tried to read all of Quicksilver, and it's not that I didn't enjoy it. It's just, I just can't right now.
Yep.
You know, I can't get into it. I also read, I think one of my favorite ones that I read this year was Death in the Downline.
Oh, yeah.
That was so funny. It was so dark, the humor in it, but it really cracked me up a lot.
That was a really fun one.
Yeah.
I felt like after I read it as well, and I know when I gave you like the description, you were like, oh, I definitely want to read this.
Yeah.
It was a very fun one.
It was very funny. I definitely recommend. And that one was an easy read.
Very much, yeah.
And then what was fun was that I got to read some ARCs myself this year. Mm-hmm. For better, for worse, being somebody who has an English degree, you kind of get used to the slog of getting through something that you don't fully enjoy all the time.
Yep.
And then writing a report about it. I will say, Oxford Soju Club was one that I read this year by Jinwoo Park. That was fantastic. He's a Montreal-based... I think it's...
He believed he is,
He's a Montreal-based writer. His novel was great. Mm-hmm. It was a very quick read. There was a lot going on, but it all kind of came together at the end in a nice way. So that was kind of me. And like I was saying to Megan earlier, normally I would also pick up like a romance. Mm-hmm. But again, when you're in like the early throes of motherhood, you don't want to read about some perfect guy with, two people sipping tea on a porch. Like, you're just like, get the fuck out of here. Especially like, nobody fucking wants to listen to this right now.
You do tend to lean towards, and we did talk about this like last month too, you do tend to lean towards like the sweet romance. Yeah. And so with that, unfortunately, that is a lot of what you get. And so, I feel like maybe at this time in your life, you're not quite there yet,
we're not like, just give me another few months here, Not that, my husband hasn't been wonderful this year, but I think it's just any... like, new mother is just like, fuck off. Like, nobody's that perfect.
Yeah, and also this isn't what life is like.
No.
And it's just, it's normal.
Well, like I said to you earlier, you kind of want to read about somebody else's life being more chaotic than your own.
Yes. I do think that's a good way of putting it. You're like, I need to know that someone else is having a worse time than I am.
Because this is a lot.
There's a lot going on right
now. You
pick
pick up a thriller and you're like, oh, okay, well, at least I'm not getting moided.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Anyway, that was like a big, long slog about me this year.
So I feel like weirdly, you know what, I was taking a look through like my Goodreads, because I forget half the time like what I read at what time of the year. But I did realize that the first half of my year, which was again like a little bit sort of interesting, I was very fantasy heavy. Early in the year.
Yeah, you were actually.
I did. I mean, like, look, like within the first like few months of the year, I had read a few cozy fantasies, I think 2 or 3. I read Fourth Wing finally.
Did you read all of them?
No, I've only read the first one. I have all 3 of them. I'll get there. You're so bloody rushed, Shereen. Just take your time.
You're like, this is my process.
Yeah, but you know what else I read? Quicksilver, which someone did not read. So it was I was looking through and I was like, my first, the first 6 months of the year were very fantasy heavy for me, which is a little bit unusual.
It is
for
unusual.
me.
I did read Onyx Storm. I've just realized.
True, yeah, that's true, you did. But anyway, that was just because I think I was already on a kick of it at the end of last year. And so I kind of just continued. And while I really enjoyed it, it did kind of take me out of that definitely took me out of like my usual. I don't normally read that many fantasy novels that much in a row. Like I tend to like lean towards a thriller or like a horror or something. And I started realizing part of the way through the year that I was like, God damn it. I was like, I've forgotten to read horror, like straight horror. I'm not talking about thrillers and stuff like that. Easy thriller, like straight horror.
No, we're talking about the books that you recommend to me, and I have to
you're
hold super far away from my face to make sure it doesn't come near me.
Yeah, and I'd forgotten about them, and I was like, oh, this sucks. And so I feel like I veered maybe by like September or something, and I really kind of leaned back into that a little bit. And in the past like few months, I've read a few, and I've been having a very good time with it. And there are definitely a couple that I really want to get through before the end of the year. I'm kind of hoping that I can, because I've heard really good things about them, and it's like one of those where I'm like, is this going to be on my list, like my top list this year? Possibly.
Could be.
So it's been like a really funny year for me, where I started completely out of my norm, and then really leaned back into it, but also in a really positive way, where multiple of the books that I read, I've been like, oh, that was really good.
It's true though, because like when we've done the What's on Your Nightstand segments over the last few months, you're like, well, I read this one, and then I read this one, and then I read this one, and I was like, wow, that was a lot of horror.
It sure was.
Ooh, you want a palate cleanser in between them?
No. They are my palate cleansers. However, within that, I've actually been fortunate enough that a lot of the ARCs that we did receive this year were from all sorts of different genres, which is cool. Like I had a very light rom-com that I read. I had a couple of different like mystery thrillers that were also like very different from one another, which were both interesting in different ways. The Ends of Things and When She Was Gone, those were two very different ones. I read like a lit fic, which is not something that I do very frequently. The Book Club for Troublesome Women, that's not my usual vibe. 1960s set.
Oh yeah.
You know, housewives starting a book club kind of thing. But it was like really fun. The characters were well written, all that kind of stuff. I've read a couple of novels by Canadian authors, which were fun and were like really interesting to get into, which I appreciate and I'm going to keep doing. A couple of others that were maybe on the mystery side, but a little bit lighter hearted to a degree, which has like allowed me to do that. And, you know, in the spirit of exactly what I was just talking about, we were talking about in the What's on My Nightstand, like a couple of really great fantasy stories as well. I read The Shattered King a few months ago. I just, as I said, finished The Bookshop Below recently. That review's up on the website as well. So it's given me like an interesting opportunity to kind of either be reminded of or to maybe discover a few new things and a few new authors in particular that I'm like, ooh, I'm going to pay attention to this.
Yeah, that's definitely like one of the advantages of getting these ARCs, but also kind of reminding ourselves what our favorite genre is and exploring others at the same time. Like it's a fun balance that you kind of do.
True.
Like I find that last year, for example, I was very fantasy heavy. I read, I think, only fantasy all year almost.
Yeah.
And then this year, I'm like kind of like whatevs. Like I read, I haven't finished it yet, but I've read most of Stephen King novel.
Yeah, God, that's another one that was totally out of
left field here. Yeah, but
when
I was like,
me that, I was like, you are?
Yeah, I was like, nah, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna read this, and it's good. Like his writing style is amazing.
Yeah.
So here's a question for you, Megan. As we're talking about all this, what is the one thing, regardless of genre, take genre out of it, that will keep you hooked in a book? Like, what is the thing that if you start reading, you're like, yeah, as long as there's this, I am invested?
Oh, that's a really hard one. I think it's really difficult to narrow it down to one thing, I guess, but I guess if I think about it, one of the big things for me is that there must be a character or characters who are relatable to me in some capacity. Yeah. If there are none, you lose me almost immediately. Yeah. And I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah. I think I'm the same. For me, it's all about the characters and the character interactions.
Yes.
For sure, plot is important. But
also I find it varies between genres as well, right?
It does.
You know, like where you're kind of like, well, if it's this genre, this is what I care more about. If it's this genre, this is what I care more about.
Yeah.
Like, there's definitely certain aspects of that. Like a thriller, I can be like, whatever, I don't relate to any of these fucking people, but the mystery is really interesting.
Yeah.
But all these people are messy.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Right.
But like in a fantasy, I do need to have relatable characters.
Yeah.
If there's a romantic element, they better have good banter. Like there's, you know, there are a lot of things about that. And even if I'm reading like a horror and there's some form of like trauma that the character is experiencing, something. It does tend to be why I have a tendency to lean towards horror novels with female protagonists, because often whatever it is that either they've experienced or are experiencing, even if you've not experienced something that's exactly the same, as a woman, you can find relatable characteristics there. So all of those aspects I find kind of come into play. But overall, I do find that the characters play maybe the bigger role for me.
I would agree with that, because they also play a role in how the plot gets advanced and how, you know, how hooked you get into, like, the advancement of the plot.
Yes.
Because if I don't care about the characters, then I really don't care what happens to them.
Exactly. So you're like, why would I even care about finishing this book?
Well,
if I don't care about what happens to this character, why would I care about finishing this book?
I have read some books that had zero plot, but the characters were great and they had great interactions. And so I finished it, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Even though you were like, I'm not a big fan of the story.
And I think, like, if we, and, you know, not to hyperfixate on this one, but we both mentioned The Perfect Marriage. I think that was one of the issues with that one is that, okay, it was a thriller. Neither of the characters were really relatable because they both sucked.
Oh, I hated both of them.
And so you're kind of like, well, I can't really relate to either of you. And the plot's kind of
like it really goes off the rails at some point.
So it kind of makes it so that, you know, it was like one of those things where I felt like I kept kind of losing interest, but kept kind of going back to it, and then kind of losing interest and going back to it. And then in the end, like, okay, the last 20 pages were exciting enough, but like not enough to redeem the entire book.
It revealed a twist, and I was like, oh, that wasn't even that was just a weird twist. What
like,
a strange choice.
It just kind of got thrown in at the end, you know, and I'm like, oh, I don't like it when you do that, you know?
It is not for me. So I guess just to wrap things up a little bit, do you have any maybe authors this year who are really like on your radar now, who you've discovered, who you're like, I will definitely like to either pick up other existing books, or if they're a newer author, pick up anything in the future that they're publishing, because I'm really curious to see like what else they do.
Yes. So there's two. Jinwoo Park, who wrote Oxford Soju Club. Very curious to see what they end up doing after this now. And then who wrote Death on the Downline?
Maria Abrams.
Oh, okay. And Maria Abrams, who wrote Death on the Downline, just because I think she's funny.
I do appreciate a dark comedy that properly leans into the darkness of the comedy.
Yes.
And isn't afraid for you to be like,
oh, there were so many moments I read that book that I was like, but it was funny. So I will be keeping an eye out for her, just because I just thought it was a fun read. Definitely like a summer vibe kind of read.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And, you know, Frida McFadden, like, she's pumping out new books every few days here. So I think...
I know people have accused her of AI, but given the volume, I do kind of understand why people are like, okay, what the hell, though?
Yeah, I think that, you know, once the Housemaid movie comes out, it'll be interesting. Like, I haven't gone out of my way to read any more of her books this year. Yeah. Because I'm kind of like, I read a couple of them, like, I'm good, you know?
Yeah.
So,
fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
What about you?
I think there were a few for me, probably. I mean, like, I'm surprised for you. You didn't say, like, you'd be curious to read other Stephen King stuff at this point.
Oh, I will be. Yeah. I just need to finish this one first and decide how I feel about him.
So this is the first year that I read a novel by Sarah Beth Durst, because I read The Spell Shop. And I know she's had a couple of other releases as well, like a follow-up and then another one or two standalones, at least one that's out and I think one that's on the way. Her stuff is it's cozy fantasy. It's like so fun. I did like the world that was created in it and stuff. It was great. I liked the main character in The Spell Shop and stuff. I thought she was really fun. And that would be like a really fun one, I think, to continue. I'm definitely going to like pick up her other stuff. It's like perfect spring, fun, cute reads. Yeah. There's something about them. L.S. Stratton, whose novel In Deadly Company I read, I believe, in the late summer, if I'm not mistaken, that we had received from the publisher, was a really fun mystery. I really liked it. I thought it was super cool. I know that she has another one on the way in the YA sphere, if I'm not mistaken, called Sundown Girls, which is being published in January. YA, like, thriller type thing. That sounds really cool. And I really liked her writing style. I liked a kind of like the sort of like dry kind of humor that she had in the book as well, which was really fun. And then on the fantasy side of things, I did read the Dark Lord's Guide to Dating and Other War Crimes by Tiffany Hunt, who's a little bit more on the indie side, but now I've seen per her newsletter that she's being traditionally published, which is super cool. So congratulations to her. Her follow-up to that novel is meant to be out next year. Very romantic-y, heavier on the romance side, but there's a lot of plot going on, and the banter it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so fucking funny. Anyway,
really?
It's ridiculous. I mean, it's basically like if you take like assistant to the villain and you put more sex in it. Like that's kind of what it is, to be fair. Because assistant to the villain's pretty tame. So it's pretty much that. But it was very funny to read, and I did it randomly. I wasn't expecting it, and I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would. Yeah. And then probably author-wise, other than that, Monica Kim, whose novel The Eyes Are the Best Part, I read.
Oh yeah, you told me about this
one. Was so cool and so fascinating to read. I believe that The Eyes Are the Best Part was actually her first book. She has a novel coming out in April of next year called Mocha. Okay. That has something to do with like spy cameras being installed in people's places and stuff. I think it's also going to be one that's probably really uncomfortable to read. I cannot wait. I think her style is fascinating. I really liked her sort of delving into like female experience with like men and stuff, and particularly from like a Korean American perspective. It seemed like it was like a really interesting concept. That book was fucked up. And so yeah. And so
the title.
And so I'm really curious to see like her follow up and how like she continues to build, because I thought that her stuff was really cool. Yeah. Fun. It's been fun so far. I think we're going to talk about things a little bit more when we do like our final episode of the year, and we do like our top 10 list and stuff. So we'll get into things a little more in detail at that point. But as usual, we do have like information, a bunch of stuff over on the website at fullybooked.ca, and we'll have all of the reviews that we're talking about, all of that stuff, even some other things coming up before the end of the year as well. We'll have some other reviews dropping too, so keep an eye out for those. And you can also follow all of that and all the progress and everything over on Instagram, TikTok, Threads, Blue Sky. We are at Fully Booked CA. But until next week, guys, keep on reading.
Thanks, everyone.